Mixed reactions greet Court of Appeal's acquittal and discharge of former MASLOC CEO Sedina Tamaklo, who had been convicted over an alleged embezzlement of more than $6 million in public funds.
Also coming up, Lands and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Amakofibua insists government has no intention of selling off Valco as he meets agitated staff of the company.
A lot later, National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat NIMOS arrests 19 suspected illegal miners at Mpohofiase following reports of galamsey activities near the community's police station.
It's News Central, live on TV3. I'm Kameni Amano.
And I am Mawinite Beta. The bulletin starts right now.
Now, the Court of Appeal has acquitted and discharged former MASLOC CEO Sedina Tamaklo Ationu after holding that the prosecution failed to prove the charges which were leveled against her. Madame Tamaklo Ationu was in April of 2024 sentenced to 10 years in absentia after the Accra High Court convicted her of 78 counts of offences, including stealing, conspiracy, money laundering and procurement-related offences over the embezzlement of more than $6 million in public funds. In a 94-page document, the court held that the trial judge lost sight of the presumption of innocence until proven guilty, and that the prosecution failed to prove the charges against her beyond reasonable doubt. The court also faulted the manner in which the prosecution handles the case. Let's take a listen to the lawyer for the former MASLOC CEO speak to our court reporter after the ruling.
Firstly, let me seize the opportunity to thank my lords for, in fact, for agreeing with us that in fact, for agreeing with our submissions. So we thank my lords for their erudite reasoning. However, we would just wait for the entire judgment. My lords have said that the judgment will be ready by close of today. So we'll take get copies of the judgment, and then we can peruse it, and then we can make comments subsequently. But I am a happy person, and I believe my client is also will also be happy.
Essentially, what was the gravity or gravamen of your appeal before the Court of Appeal? What were the grounds that you were seeking from the Court of Appeal?
Oh, in fact, I would say in terms of strategy, okay, we had come essentially on three main grounds. On the fact that the charge sheet itself was defective, and then secondly that in fact there was no prima facie proper prima facie determination against our client, and then of course we also attacked the judgment itself. So these were the grounds, but as you may have already heard, in fact the court only read their conclusion, and then they only dwelled on the first leg of our submission, which was the defective charge sheet.
As we speak, what's the state of your client? How is she doing now?
Well, I'm yet to speak to her, but I mean, as we all know, she's in Sawam, and I'm sure she may have already heard the news, so I'm sure she'll be happy. Yeah.
All right.
Thank you.
Are there any other options that you seek to take? Perhaps some civil action against the state?
Well, I don't have such instructions now, but I'm going to sit with my client, and then on the basis of the judgment, we'll see what steps we can take.
Enoch Degbe is counsel for the former MASLOC CEO, Sedina Tamaklo Achionu. We'll stay on the story because this mind-splitting decision by the Court of Appeal has a bit more to it than we have already told you. We'll connect now with our court correspondent who's been observing the situation since the decision was made earlier today. Lord, what else can you tell us about this ruling?
Sedina's case. Yeah. Well, have you sought a comment from the Attorney General? Seek a comment from the Attorney General, because Sedina was convicted on very credible evidence and all, and he conducted the appeal. So find out from the current Attorney General what he feels about the acquittal of Sedina and why Sedina was acquitted. I don't know why she was acquitted. So find out from the current Attorney General why that happened.
But
and what he feels.
It was not. You didn't prove your case beyond.
It cannot be the case at all. You see in the judgment of the High Court, yes, and Sedina actually absconded after she had actually been confronted with the evidence led by the prosecution. It was not for nothing. So I'm saying, find out from the current Attorney General, do you know the kind of opposition that he mounted to the appeal? Or was there any opposition at all? I don't know. That's it.
Is all going well with Hanan's case?
As far as we know, yes. Apart from
you had your
halt proceedings and to go to the Court of Appeal.
That was dismissed.
Yes, and unjustifiably, as far as I'm concerned, because the matters that we raise are very fundamental. The charge sheet is very defective, or defective not only because of 2 counts that the judge struck out the last time, is the whole of the charge sheet is defective. And I think it's important that the Court of Appeal determines it, and we have filed an appeal and repeat the sort of proceedings. It's important that we know that when the state of proceedings is refused at the High Court, we can repeat it at the Court of Appeal. So we indeed repeat the stay at the Court of Appeal.
You didn't seem pleased when the charge had indicated that he'd be sitting throughout the legal vacation, especially after getting a circular from the Judicial Secretary.
Yes, because that's unjustified haste, and that is unprecedented. It has never happened at all. I do not understand why they are in such ambulance haste. I mean, in the days of the MPP and all these trials were going on, did you see any of them being conducted in the vacation? Never at all. Never at all was any person tried in the vacation. Has never happened since 1982. And I do not think it should happen. And indeed, we protest the directive given by the Chief Justice for it to happen now. Why? What's the exceptional circumstance here? Why so much urgent need to have accused persons tried in the vacation? If we've not been able to try Hanan all along, it's not my fault. It is their own doing that they discontinue the prosecution and all that. If all the charges have been defective and they decide to withdraw at one point and come back, and they have been ordered to amend and all that, it's their own doing. It cannot be as a result of my default. And so there's no justification for the order for the accused persons to be tried in the vacation. We are going to protest the directive, and we'll do so accordingly.
I mean, back to the said now, will you advise the Attorney General to appeal the decision of the Court of Appeal? Oh,
definitely. I mean, when I was in office and there was acquittal by the Court of Appeal, certain accused persons, I appealed to the Supreme Court. But the same Attorney General came and discontinued the appeal. So I would therefore not be surprised that it has not even filed any appeal at all in this matter. We saw it in Woyome. In Woyome, when they purported to put Woyome on trial on some defective charges and the court acquitted. They appealed to the Court of Appeal affirmed. They never appealed to the Supreme Court. They never even put the right persons on trial in Woyome. And to date, we know what has happened.
Thank you.
All right, Kemini, so you heard the former Attorney General, Godfrey Ebadame. He was the Attorney General during the prosecution and eventual conviction of the former MASLOC CEO, Sedina Tamaklo Achionu. Heard his comments over there about questioning the reason for which the Court of Appeal discharged and essentially acquitted the former MASLOC CEO. Now, just to run you through a few reasonings that the Court of Appeal indicated. Now, one of them that they stated was that the trial judge in the matter assumed guilt of the accused person before the case was done. Also indicated that the prosecution transferred the onus or the proof to the accused person. And then finally added that the prosecution failed to prove beyond reasonable doubt the ingredients regarding the charges which were preferred against Sedina Tamaklo Ationu. Kemini.
I see. Lord, we'll leave it here. Thank you so much for the report. And Lord Edwasara is just engaged with the former Attorney General on the steps of the law courts here in Accra. He's responded to the opinion-splitting decision taken by the Court of Appeal to discharge and acquit Sedina Tamaklo, the former MASLOC CEO. And when the Court of Appeal talks about prosecution did not have enough evidence, that prosecution was led by Godfrey Dame, the former Attorney General. We've also been hearing from Dame's deputy at the time he was in office, Alfred Chia-Yeboah, who's also expressed shock at the ruling. He insists that Sedina has been left off the hook. Take a listen.
Here's the case that in the trial, the CEO, Madam Sedina, advanced a loan facility to a microfinance company in Ashanti region in the sum of 500,000 Ghana cedis by way of checks. The company said they were not interested in the amount again because of the interest element. So they decided to return the check to Madam Sedina Tamaklo. She requested that, no, cash the money for me. They cashed the money, came to Accra at a filling station, gave her the 500,000 Ghana cedis in Ghana must go back. She took the money and issued a receipt on her own. But that money never went into the books of MASLOC. All these things were made available to the court. And if the Court of Appeal can say that with this strong and very potent evidence, they still could not prove any of the charges, that's what I'm saying. I'm very much sad.
Let's tell you a bit more about this developing story now. Mawena Egbeta is at the dashboard with all the details that you need to know. And Mawena, we're talking timeline of the event. We're talking the judgment from the original conviction, back then, 3 years ago. We're also talking about what we know so far about today's decision by the Court of Appeal. What are you learning?
Well, let's start off first from the timelines, right, as to when all of this began and where we've moved from up until now. And power changed hands by December 7, 2016. There was that elections which was held immediately. There was an Ioko investigation which began in 2017. Now, after that, a forensic audit as well was commissioned into the operations of the Microfinance and Small Loan Center, MASLOC. From there, the Ioko took hold of the forensic audit report and covered alleged financial irregularities during her term at Sedina as chief executive between 2013 and 2017. And so investigations took some time. By January of 2019, she was put before court, and then the trial did begin. So 78 counts, including conspiracy to steal, stealing, willfully causing financial loss to the state, conspiracy to cause financial loss to the state, causing loss to public property, improper payment of public funds, right? It's very important to keep in mind what these counts or charges are, because if you read the judgment of the learned judge, right, and they establish a number of things, that there was a misappropriation to a certain extent, and then once that was established, it fell in line with all of these, some of these counts, making it very simple to then proceed forward and then mention on counts so and so we find A1, the first accused, Sedina Tamaklo, convicted of the offense, amongst other things. So very important, because you see causing loss to public property, amongst other things, and you're wondering exactly what that means. We'll seek to provide a bit more in terms of details. Also, unauthorized commitment resulting in financial obligations to government, allegations of money laundering, breaches of the Public Procurement Act, because in some of the purchases, right? For instance, for the 100-seater buses, amongst other things, which constituted some of the gravamen of offenses which went to the court, the evidence which had been put before the court by the prosecution suggested that, look, contracts were signed or payments were advanced to a certain extent before contracts were signed, which will bring into question breaches of Public Procurement Act, amongst other things, in relation to the matter. So the trial then began in January of 2020, right? 2019, I beg your pardon. By February 2021, she put in a request, an application to travel. The High Court granted that permission to the United States for medical treatment. It's an important part of this particular trajectory which we're on, right? Because her decision to seek medical treatment outside of the jurisdiction will prove, or did prove, fundamental in the decision which was arrived at by the court, where certain arguments were advanced by prosecution which required responses, because the court believed that a prima facie case had been established and there was the requirement for her to punch holes. Her absence, amongst other things, per the court's ruling, proved as basis for her conviction in some of the instances. She failed to return to the jurisdiction after the court approved that travel, and subsequently a warrant was issued for her arrest, and the trial continued in absentia. In fact, in all of the talk about Ken Oforiatta and the many things, this has been cited as an example that the trial proceeded in her absence, and so same can be done for other persons in the jurisdiction, amongst other things. By April 16, 2024, a conviction and a sentencing was made known to the entire public. Justice Efia Sewa Asareboche convicted her in absentia. She was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and her co-accused, Daniel Axim, was a second accused in the matter, was also convicted, was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Daniel Axim began serving his term, but subsequently has proceeded to the courts appealing this decision and has been granted bail pending appeal. Questions which are being asked as to what happens to him if Madame Sedina has been acquitted and discharged by the courts now. It presupposes the remnant will affect him as well. But we'll get into those conversations as well for you subsequently. So the court found her guilty on numerous counts, including stealing, conspiracy to steal, willfully causing financial loss to the state, causing loss to public property, money laundering, and procurement-related offenses, right? Procurement-related offenses. Then the trial court also directed the prosecution to commence forfeiture proceedings against her. Then power changed hands, before power changed hands, right? Extradition efforts began by July of 2024. Let's go back to when the conviction came. April, July. Extradition proceedings then began in seeking to, amongst many other things, have a return to the jurisdiction and answer or serve a term. Right? Serve a term. We're going to go onto the phone as well and speak to the Director of Legal Affairs for the NDC, Godwin Edugitamaklo, on this. But let me just complete the walking through the timeline, and then we'll go to Edugitamaklo. Then we'll return to the basis for her appeal before the courts today, upon which her acquittal and discharge has come forth from the Court of Appeal. Now, in December of last year, a U.S. arrest warrant was issued. And subsequently, we know she was arrested in January of this year in Nevada and was brought into the jurisdiction and there were lots of questions as to her whereabouts, amongst many other things. But let's go onto the phone lines right now and speak to Gordon Eduji Tamaklo, who is the Director of Legal for the NDC, and quite interestingly, at one point in time, stood as counsel for her as well. Counsel, appreciate you. You're quite familiar with this case because you once served, like I was mentioning, as counsel for the now freed Sedina Tamaklo. Yes, Mr. Tamaklo, why are you saying something?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Yes, I'm saying that good afternoon to your viewers. First of all, I've never represented her. I've never been loyal for her as far as a case was concerned.
Absolutely.
I'm just speaking as a private legal practitioner, seized with some of the surrounding circumstances. Beyond that, I didn't have the personal conduct of the case.
Right. So let's zoom straight into it as well, because the suggestion is that it's been all very convenient, the manner in which things have played up until this point, this acquittal and discharge.
A judge, once appealed, is reviewable by a panel of 3. That panel of 3 have every right to come to a conclusion different. And if you look at our jurisprudence, it is replaced. In fact, just a month ago, the Court of Appeal reversed a judgment on the narcotics case unanimously. And so this is nothing strange. The only challenge we have in this country is that usually when you are prosecuted, people do not want to see that your prosecution is based on what the individual is alleged to have been done. But in terms of group tax and what have you, but beyond that, I don't see anything so strange about the Court of Appeal reversing a judgment made by a trial judge at all.
Right. The argument is that this is convenient, particularly for her, and a bit too fortuitous, considering that she was returned to the jurisdiction. In fact, there were arguments as to whether or not she had been sent to prison to start off with, which drew statements from the Interior Minister, amongst other things, suggesting same had been done. And now she files an appeal on the 12th of this month, and the court sits, hears the appeal, and she's acquitted and discharged, when other cases, for instance, have been before that same Court of Appeal and yet to be heard.
Who am I speaking?
Mawina here, counsel.
Egbeto.
Yes, Egbeto.
Sorry. Oh, Mawina. Sedi has been in this country for some months now. You're a senior journalist. Did you get the benefit of verifying that she was not in Nsawam? At least let's take me out of it, so that at least at the barest minimum, you will not be repeating such unfounded claims on TV. There's record, which record is easily ascertainable, that she had been in Nsawam prison. Is that a convenient proposition to make? With respect, if you have a situation where an appeal was mounted many times ago, many years ago, and submissions were filed many months ago, I don't know what you want done. Are you saying that you disagree with the judgment, a judgment that you and I are here to read?
No.
What would be the basis?
Right.
And when the suggestion is made that it is convenient, what would be the basis of that claim of convenience?
Granted, and the point I make was in relation to the conversation surrounding before we got to know as well that she had been taken into prison custody. There was the conversation and questions being asked, but that's beside the point. The argument which has also been put forth by the minority, which is a criticism, is that with regards to the optics, it doesn't look quite good for the NDC, who say they are engaged in oral, amongst many other things, for someone who's been convicted. Suddenly, the person has been acquitted as well. That's one of the many criticisms which is coming forth from your opponents.
the reasoning I get from your questioning is that it doesn't matter whether there was evidence to support the conviction. Once it meets a certain optical thing, it's enough to put the person in prison. Have you been in prison before? Have you spent a day in custody before?
Absolutely not, counsel.
So you can have that convenient conversation. You can have that. You can play balls with the liberty of an individual to satisfy a mob. I mean, that's your cup of tea.
Right.
It's stressful. If you have been in custody for even a day, and you strongly believe that there's no basis for your conviction, even a day in prison will be the most horrible thing to happen to you. And let me say, have you even looked at the record of proceedings? Look, Sticker. You know Sticker?
Yes.
Sticker was a prosecution witness in this case. Under cross-examination, he was specifically asked, was one cedi paid by SEDI for those buses? His answer was no. And that he, as Sticker, was the one who came and renegotiated the contract. And this person is supposed to be in prison for that. Get the opportunity to read the entire record and see if those doubts in the prosecution's case ought not to be resolved in favor of the accused person.
Counsel, perhaps the final question I'll ask is in relation to the judgment, right, of Ifiasa Rebotwe on one of the counts of stealing, where the argument was made in the reasoning of the learned judge that in one of the instances where there was a claim of monies for sensitization and a specific workshop, some 1.7 million cedis, there was no evidence as to the workshop being done. Prosecution argued that even the regional officials and all of that could not verify if the workshop or the sensitization exercise had been carried out. And her absence to have been in court to prove that indeed it happened, because the burden had shifted from the prosecution to her absence constituted a part of the reason why she couldn't disprove that prima facie evidence which had been placed on her. That argument has been made that her absence as well could have gone against her in that trial.
Look, the burden is still on the prosecution to prove her guilt beyond reasonable doubt. They failed to do that. Let me go back to the records. And because you raised the issue of records, if you look at volume 5, page 64 of the records, this is the exchange that happened between the prosecution witness and counsel for her. Question. The officers who wrote statements indicating that they were sent to cash checks and handed over the monies to A1 did not indicate that there was no sensitization. Is that correct? Answer. That is correct, my lady. Do you still stand by your claim?
Well,
do you still stand, from what I just read and across, do you still stand by your claim?
Then that will prove, amongst many other things, perhaps the basis upon which the Court of Appeal has arrived at that decision.
So what are you talking about? You have not even addressed your mind to the record.
No, I have read the judgment.
I mean, it's like a bull in a china shop. Go back to the records. The prosecution witness were specifically asked that none of the officers indicated that there was no sensitization. And the answer by the prosecution witness was, yes, my lady.
For you, that disproves their case completely.
Based on your claim, does it not controvert your assertion?
Well, it will suggest same, will it not?
So if there is a doubt from your learning, when should the doubt be resolved in favor?
Well, Counsel, appreciate their insights and the details, and we'll look forward to.
Please, you see, we should go back to the records.
Right. Certainly. Appreciate you speaking to us. That's Eduji Tamaklo. He is Director of Legal of the NDC, speaking to us this afternoon in relation to the acquittal, right, and discharge of Sedina Tamaklo in relation to that case brought against her, convicted, sentenced to 10 years. The Court of Appeal acquitted and discharged her. Looking forward to the full reasoning. We understand it's a 94-page reasoning of the Court of Appeal, which says that the prosecution did not discharge the burden of proof in relation to the charges brought against her, resulting in an overturning of the ruling. But we understand the news just coming in is that the AG is set to appeal this particular acquittal and discharge of Madam Sedina Tamaklo Atienu at the Supreme Court. I'm sure there'll be a bit more in terms of details from that, because we're expecting the Attorney General as well to be addressing the country a lot later this afternoon at 1 p.m. as well. And so there will be a lot more, and certainly not the last we're hearing of this particular subject matter coming in.
Very well, Moana. Let's turn attention to other matters now. The Ghana Immigration Service has rescued 85 suspected victims of human trafficking and forced labor and arrested 17 foreign nationals believed to be part of a cyber fraud syndicate during an intelligence-led operation at Dawenya in the Greater Accra region. Immigration officials say the operation, carried out on July 26, targeted a facility opposite the China West Mall following a tip-off from residents. The service says investigations indicate the victims were subjected to physical abuse and kept in deplorable living conditions, while the suspects were residing in Ghana illegally. In a related operation, the Assignment Sector Command detained 93 Nigerian women aged between 15 and 44 in the Chinagbe area over suspected immigration and prostitution-related offenses. The Immigration Service says investigations are ongoing as efforts continue to arrest the alleged masterminds behind the trafficking and cyber fraud network. DCOI Maud Enima Kwenu joins us for a bit more on this story. She's head Public Affairs Department of the Ghana Immigration Service. DCOI, thank you so much for your time here. But let's talk about these people who have been arrested. 85 of them?
Yes, so we have 85 who are being treated as victims of human trafficking, and 17 who are suspects, who we are handling as suspects. It is believed that they were involved in luring these people into the country, and the persons we picked up, we realized have undergone a lot of this maltreatment, physical abuse. Because,
right.
There are marks all over their bodies, and some of them looked traumatized. So as it is, we are processing them, the victims, to send back home. We are in collaboration with the various missions, various high commissions and embassies to take them back home. But we are still investigating the suspects who we believe were behind bringing these people into the country and involving them in the cyber fraud against their will. That is what we gathered from the persons who gave us the information. It was intelligence-led. We got information from the public, and we are working on it, you know.
DCOI, so we understand from what you're telling us that these the victims of trafficking are nationals of different countries in the West African region. Which countries are these?
Presently, I am not in a position to speak about the countries, the specific countries, because we are still doing the profiling. So give us some few, I'll get back to you on the breakdown.
And the suspects, on the other hand, are also illegally resident in Ghana, so they are foreigners?
Yes, they are all foreigners. And we realized that they had entered the country through illegal means, through unapproved routes into the country.
How widespread is issues of trafficking? What can people do to spot danger and protect themselves?
Okay, so this trend seems to be catching up all over. Apart from arresting these people at Dowenya, our Ashiaman Sector Command also picked up 93. You know, we are talking about there was this incident at Dowenya where we picked up 102, and then another, we picked up 93 in Dowenya.
Very well.
And in Ashiama, sorry. And it is very rampant. It's becoming very rampant. We are doing a lot of sensitization to get the young, and most of them are very young. Their ages range from 15 to 44. And it is very problematic. We are encouraging, we are sensitizing the youth to educate themselves when they are coming. If they go on our website, when they want to travel, they should get involved, seek information before they travel.
DCO, I'm afraid we'll have to end our conversation here for news just coming in. Thank you so much for your time. DCOI Maud Enimakwenu is Head of Public Affairs for the Ghana Immigration Service. If you're watching our coverage of the Court of Appeal decision regarding former MASLOC CEO Sedina Tamaklo Atieno, you may have heard a very resourceful court correspondent tell us that their sources had told them that the AG will appeal the acquittal and discharge decision taken by the Court of Appeal today. Right now, we are getting confirmation on that. Not confirmation, but the right word to use is official statement from the Attorney General's office. Moena, take us through the statement.
Right, and so we mentioned that the official statement is here now. It reads that the attention of the Attorney General has been drawn to the decision of the Court of Appeal acquitting the former Chief Executive Officer of the Microfinance and Small Loans Center, MASLOC, Ms. Sedina Atieno Tamaklo, of all the charges brought against her. Ms. Tamaklo was charged with 78 counts of various offenses, including conspiracy to steal, stealing, conspiracy to cause financial loss to the state, causing financial loss to the state, causing loss to public property. I'm just going to skip a bit of the charges because we've walked viewers through that. She was tried and convicted in absentia by the High Court Financial Division 2, presided over by Her Ladyship Justice Ifyasewa Sareboche, sitting as an additional High Court judge. Upon her conviction, she was sentenced to 10 years imprisonment. Now, the Republic opposed the appeal by filing written submissions contending that the appeal lacked merit and ought to be dismissed. Having received notice of the Court of Appeal's decision, the Attorney General has directed the Director of Public Prosecutions to immediately file a notice of appeal to the Supreme Court together with an application for a stay of execution of the judgment pending the determination of the appeal. The Attorney General remains committed to the due process of law and is confident that the appeal before the Supreme Court will succeed. And so certainly, not the last that we're hearing of this, but all of this will come to a head a bit more in terms of an understanding when we see the reasoning, right, of the Court of Appeal, because 3 justices sat and took a decision, a unanimous decision, to acquit and discharge. So it will have to, then you have to have it tally, not tally per se, but you want to take that vis-a-vis what the decision of Justice Ifyasewa Sareboche was, which convicted her to 10 because she found her guilty on all counts. The argument was that prosecution, there was not guilt beyond reasonable doubt. And so the Court of Appeal has agreed with that argument. Then we compare both the arguments which were made, and then we can look ahead to what the argument will be when it does appear before the Supreme Court as well.
Interesting days ahead.
Absolutely.
We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go away.
us is changing, not slowly, not quietly. In the north, the rains that once arrived on time don't come anymore. In the middle belt, rivers and forests disappearing overnight. Along the coast, the sea is swallowing land that families have called home for generations. Rising temperatures, failed harvests, homes lost to tides. This is not a warning about tomorrow. This is the world right now. TV3 and the German Embassy in Ghana, the conversation on climate security implications in Ghana, the Climate Talks 2026. 5 cities, 5 conversations, 1 urgent call to action. Tamale, Bolgatanga, Kumasi, Keta, Accra, starting this June 2026. The climate talks are coming, and this time, the people most affected by Ghana's climate security crisis will be at the center of it all. Because the time for Ghana to act is now. In a world full of noise, clarity matters. Stories shape us, ideas challenge us. An honest dialogue moves us forward. This is a space for depth, where voices are heard and perspectives matter. Conversations with Dr. Abnanya Kwasmeni, coming soon on TV3.
TV3, first in news.
So News Central here on TV3. Now, the National Anti-Illegal Mining Operations Secretariat, NIMOS, has arrested 19 suspected illegal miners at Mpoho, Fiase, following reports of galamsey activities near the community's police station. During the operation, NIMOS targeted 2 major illegal mining sites before extending the exercise to several smaller sites in the area. The task force destroyed 16 Shamfang machines, 9 water pumps, and 3 makeshift structures used to support illegal mining activities. An excavator was also found at one of the sites, and critical components were removed to render it inoperable. Personnel also seized a pump-action shotgun and 4 rounds of ammunition from one of the suspects. Additionally, a sum of 120,000 cedis in cash was found in the possession of another suspect. The suspects and seized items have since been secured for the necessary investigations and further action in accordance with the law. Let's connect now with spokesperson for NIMAS and Media Relations Officer at the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry, Pakwesi Shandov. Pakwesi, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Let's talk about these incidents, this incident, the arrest of suspects and seizure of items. What else can you tell us?
Momentarily, as we speak, the 19 suspects are all being processed for court for onward prosecution accordingly. Because in that particular enclave, somewhere last week, or rather, let me say last 2 weeks, NIMAS had embarked on a recce in that area, and it was very apparent that Galamsey was festering very prominently there. Indeed, those who were doing it without recourse to any regulation whatsoever. And so the approach is to deal decisively with them, and that is exactly what has commenced.
The focus of the fight has been getting to people at the top of the chain as far as illegal mining is concerned, or one of the pillars of the fight is to get to people at the top. With the arrest of these suspects who were on the ground digging for gold, I suppose, how are they working with the police to lead you, NIMAS, that is, to the people at the top of the chain?
I can give the assurance that we've been able to get very credible information from them, which in the not too distant future would help in unmasking the actual architects behind the menace, especially in that part of the country. And so we'll offer that update as and when, because these underlings are actually your most trusted routes to getting the grand architects behind it. And so once they are currently in custody and they are being cooperative, we are sure that we'll get to the real monsters behind the scene.
Well, it's a fine time for a quick update. So in total, how many arrests have been made by NIMAS, and what's been the impact on the environment so far?
Well, so I want to limit the number to this particular first half of the year. I mean, July is almost expiring, but essentially from January to June, we had arrested well over 217 suspected illegal miners, including some Nigerians, Burkinabes, and some Chinese as well. If we added this number, I'm sure we might be going to somewhere 230. But the most significant question that has arisen over the period is the prosecution. Indeed, the critics and well-meaning persons have had cause to say that if continuously we are arresting and there is no attendant prosecution, then it may as well constitute, an irrelevant affair. But the truth of the matter is that everybody who has been arrested so far, anybody at all who's been arrested, would certainly be prosecuted. Indeed, their case files are ready, but there is a system that is being built to expedite all illegal mining offenses. And so once that system is concluded, anybody who is on record to have been arrested in that manner will be duly dealt with in accordance with the law.
Pakwesi, we'll keep tabs on it. Thank you so much for talking to us. Pakwesi Shandov is Media Relations Officer for the Lands and Natural Resources Ministry.
We'll stay with the minister, that's the Lands and Natural Resources Minister, Ama Kofi Boah, because he's met with the management and workers of Valco to address concerns over reports that the smelter could be put up for sale. Speaking to staff, the minister assured them that Valco is not for sale. Instead, he said government is engaging private investors to raise about $700 million to recapitalize the company and restore it to full operations. Workers of the Volta Aluminium Company, Valco, together with members of the Industrial and Commercial Workers Union, on Monday staged a protest in what they described as attempts to privatize a state-owned aluminium smelter. The protesters expressed concern over what they claimed were efforts by the Ghana Integrated Aluminium Development Corporation, GIADEC, to introduce strategic equity investors into Valco, insisting that such a move amounted to privatization of a critical national asset. My colleague Joseph Armstrong was at the meeting. He's joining us now with a bit more in terms of details. Armstrong, Armstrong is not with us just as yet. We can listen to the minister speak to the workers.
We are going to be genuine about it. So we need your support. We cannot allow few people to derail the future of this Valco that we all love. We can't. You know, every day we just have few spokespeople. They will go on radio and be so negative that somehow this place is not a place where we can turn around. This is the heart and soul of Ghana. People don't know. And some of us, we know the history of Valco. The thousands of workers that you have, the dream was to make sure that we have a smelter, we'll be processing it, and the full value change will create a quantum leap in industrialization around. It has not happened. Why hasn't that happened? It has not happened because of the problems I've described. Do we have a chance to finally start a discussion that is genuinely open, that will talk about the things we can do to turn this place around? Somebody was saying the problem of Valco right now is Jadek. My friends, Jadek is legally speaking just a shareholder of Valco. That's all it is. You know how many shareholders the Minister of Finance is for other companies?
The Upper East Region Minister, Donatus Akamuguri Atanga, has assured residents of the Bulsat North Municipality of the government's commitment to constructing roads in the area, speaking during a visit to assess the progress of work on the Chuchuliga Sandema Big Push Road project. Following viral videos suggesting the project had been abandoned, Akamuguri expressed satisfaction with the work done so far and urged residents to remain calm. Castro Senyala has more.
The minister's visit followed viral videos suggesting that the contractor, Myten Limited, had abandoned the project site, contrary to earlier reports by the Ministry of Roads and Highway that work was progressing smoothly. The minister first stopped on the Navrongo-Chuchuliga Road, where he inspected the constructed bridge and provided some clarifications.
It is also of concern that some of the citizens have decided to come around and inspect the route and probably express their opinions. I would not fault them for that. If you are a citizen, it is right for you to observe what is happening because the project is being built for them. But the only issue that I have is that it would have been better for them to ask properly what is the content of the project. The project will end by having this boulder. You see the boulders behind the river. I mean the bridge, the side of the bridge. They are supposed to do the road pitching, the stone pitching, so that they can prevent erosion. And the boulders, they have brought the materials. They are lying here, but because of the fact that the time that the materials arrived, the rains has set in, and because of that, they could not access the ground level to do the needed compacting. So that's why the materials are lying here. So, and the contractor says that when the rains subside, around October, then they will come back and do a good job here for us.
The minister then proceeded to the Chuchuluga Sandema stretch to inspect the progress of work. There, he reiterated the government's commitment to ensuring that roads in the Bulsa North Municipality and Bulsa South District are completed.
So where I am standing now is the end of the Big Push project, which is 10 kilometers from Chuchuliga to some few kilometers away from Sandema town. The government is considering, extending the Big Push to cover those areas. Some work, some packaging has been done, and then they are considering it. And so I want to assure them that let them complete this, let us support the government, and then before we realize, that can also be taken on board so that we can stretch from here to Fombishi, so that our traveling and everything will go on smoothly.
Under the repackaged road contract, 10 kilometers of the 60-kilometer Chichulika-Sandema road is being constructed under the government's Big Push program. Engineer Bismarck Kobi, site engineer for My 10 Limited overseeing the project, assured that work would be completed by December at the latest.
Meters ends about 800 meters from where we are standing. And as we speak today, we have completed all our earthworks up to we've even laid base up to the 10 kilometers. The activities you actually saw around kilometer 6200 is final dressing works, which is going to be a constant activity we'll be having from now up to December. We will actually seal the road up to 10+00, which is the official Big Push contract. Behind us,
Castro Sinyala, TV3 News, Sandema.
Well, that's our bulletin for you this afternoon, which came to you from our studios here on the John Hammond Street. I am Mawin Aigbeta.
And I am Kemeni Amano. We are back same time tomorrow. Bye-bye.